Hello everybody. So here we are. Thank you all for joining. Welcome to this tech talk on diversity, equity, and inclusiveness with Abhishek Deo from EY GDS. How are you, Abhishek? Doing
I'm
well?
doing great. I'm doing great, Rita. Thank you for asking. I hope all is well with you.
Yes, as well. Thank you for asking. And so, in short, because we have around 20 minutes of time, a brief intro about Abhishek. He leads the transaction strategy and execution and turnaround and restructuring strategy practices within AY GDS Strategy and Transaction service line. We have some questions for him today on this topic. So, Abhishek, would you please start by introducing yourself to our viewers?
Absolutely, Rita. Thank you. And I know it's quite a mouthful of my roles and responsibilities that you had to go through over there. I'll keep it simple. Hello, everyone. My name is Abhishek Deo, and I'm a partner with EY's Global Delivery Services practice. And I have been an M&A consultant since 2007. And all throughout this journey, I've been helping my clients with operational advisory whenever people are going through mergers, acquisitions, or divestitures. That's what my bread and butter and my expertise has been for all this while. But it has been a pretty winding journey on how I got to where I am today, and I think it lends itself to the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is what I'm here to talk about today. Uh, Being a military brat, which means that my father was in the Indian military, the only profession that I ever wanted to have was join the army myself. So I followed my father's footsteps, went into the Indian National Defense Academy and the Military Academy, and then served in the Indian Army for 11 years. And after that time, I decided to switch my career, switch my country, move over to the United States, did my MBA from there. And that's where I started this journey of being an M&A consultant back in 2008. And then decided to come back to India. Again, it's a very circuitous sort of winding road to get to where I am today. And then after a while, about 9 years into consulting, I started thinking, is this the only thing that I wanted to do? I wanted some diversity in my own experience. And I decided to leave consulting and get into a private equity business where I was the CEO of an oil and gas company, which took me to Nigeria. So I got the opportunity of working in Nigeria for about a year and a half. And then obviously wanted to get back into consulting, spend more time in India with my family and my parents, and therefore decided to get into EY GDS. This whole sort of 21 years of career that I've had, I've been fortunate enough to work on about 4 continents and live in about 25 cities around the world. And it has given me also the opportunity to experience and work in very different cultures, and has made me sit on both the sides of the table of diversity, equity, and inclusion, wherein sometimes I was the one including people into the culture that was a part of my country or my organization, and some of the times I was the one who wanted to get included into situations where I was new to. So that was a real quick introduction of who I am and how I got here, Rita.
Thank you. Thank you for the intro. So, and what would you say diversity, equity, and inclusion mean to you exactly? So, you've been on the other side from this introduction that you've given us. So,
Yeah.
would you please
Yeah,
tell me
no,
your thoughts?
that's a question that honestly, Rita, that I think I've been dealing with diversity, DE&I. We'll keep it short, DE&I, ever since my childhood, right? Because, like I said, my father was in the military, so which meant that I changed locations or moved from one place to another almost every 2 years. And by the time I graduated from high school, so from K through 12th, I'd already changed 8 schools. So as a kid, it was very exciting for me to, go to a new location, to a new place every 2 years. But it always came with a set of its own challenges, right? And those challenges were moving to a new state, which had a new culture, which had a new language, which had new schools, and obviously it meant making new friends every couple of years. So from very early on, sort of I got used to adapting to new cultures and got used to people helping me be included in their cultures as I made these moves. As a military leader, it was all about leading soldiers who were from different caste, from different religion, from different regions, so on and so forth. And even in consulting, which is a combination of really high performing teams of diverse minds and talent that are put together, right? So uh, my my journey of DE&I is not just because I am a DE&I lead within the organization that I am. My journey of DE&I actually started when I was a child. So what does it mean for me, right? What it means for me, or how it has helped me, is that uh, uh, it has helped me to build an ability to capitalize on the immense diversity that surrounds me, right? For the
Mhm.
benefit of people, for the benefit of the organization, and obviously very personal sort of selfish benefit of Abhishek Deo, right? If you it has what it also means is that it means recognizing people that bring their strengths to the table, irrespective of what their gender identity is, what their sexual orientation is, what color, caste, creed that they belong to. So moving above that and then focusing on extracting the strength of that person. uh, and honestly, sometimes it means having very difficult and uncomfortable conversations with the people in the organization to make sure that whatever is right is being promoted, right? So that's
Right.
what DNI means for me personally, Rita.
Right. I mean, this is a widely discussed topic in the days that we are in, and it's still
Yeah.
immensely necessary. So I'm happy that we are discussing this again with you today, and I hope our viewers also see the value in this. So also quickly saying that if you have any questions, the ones that are here watching, please do ask. You can type them down, and in the end of this talk, we can pick one or two, maybe not many because our time is short, but do ask your questions if you have them. And I would move to the third question we have here. So why do you think this is important in the workplace? So diversity, equity, and inclusion. What benefits can this be for the workplace?
Yeah, that's a great question, because whenever we have the conversation of DNI in the organization, a lot of people do tend to ask what is the ROI of diversity, equity, and
Mhm.
inclusion, because businesses see money, right? That's how it rolls.
Right.
To be absolutely blunt, Rita, it's honestly it's good for the business. That's what it is, right? And so let me contextualize this within the purview of Ernst& Young, the company that I work for. Now, EY is an organization that employs more than 300,000 people located in over 150 countries. Right? Let me repeat that. We employ over 300,000 people in over 150 countries. You think about the potential of the talent that exists in Ernst& Young, right? We are talking about people with different backgrounds, with different education, with different cultural backgrounds, with different ethnicities, people who have very different ways of working, and the way that they define their own work-life balances, right? The potential of tapping into this kind of diversity and using it for what we very proudly call building a better working world in EY, it's just immense and huge, right? And it's uh, it's not a tagline. It is not something that we do because we want to look good as a brand. It is something that is within our DNA. And why is it so? It is so because if you have an inclusive environment, if you have an environment where people are feeling belonged, it drives value not only for the organization, but it drives value for the individuals as well, and it is very symbiotic in nature, right?
Hmm.
Other type of values, and to your question, is what benefit does it drive for having DNI as a part of an organizational culture?
Yes.
For individuals, if the organization is inclusive, it means they are more motivated, right? It means that they are more happy working on whatever work is being given to them. It means that their own physical and mental well-being is better than when they are in a non-inclusive environment or a non-inclusive organization. And combined together, it means that they're having a more wholesome career journey for themselves, given all of the things, the benefits that I just mentioned. Now you flip that and see what benefit does it have for organizations. For organizations, if I have employees that are happy, if I have colleagues that are feeling belonged to the organization, it means that they're performing with better quality, they're performing better as a team, and therefore we are performing better as an organization, which means that any financial goal that we have is that much more easier to achieve by being more diverse in the people that we hire and being more inclusive as an organizational culture.
Yes, makes sense. I don't know if you were going to continue or if that's...
No. That's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was taking notes here while you were talking, and indeed, I mean, these are things that are more and more discussed nowadays, and that, in the end, it all adds up to the being more profitable, or the money side of the money
Yep.
aspect of an organization. That is also part of what we're doing. Yeah. And you mentioned also something interesting, that is UI employs over 3,000 people in over
300,000 people
300,000 people in over 300 countries.
in over 150 countries. Yeah.
One over 50 countries, yeah. And this comes to my next question. So, as someone who has worked across multiple countries and organizations, could you please share a little bit of your experience on diversity, equity, and inclusion adoption across geographies, so that our
Yep.
viewers have an
Yeah,
idea?
no, and it's a good one, right? And it is especially, I think, maybe I've benefited a lot because I've worked in so many countries and lived on so many continents, because
Yes.
there are nuances to what diversity means, there are nuances to what inclusion means, and every culture, every country is a little bit different. And then you start thinking about our workforce being so global in nature, right? 300,000 people in EMI, 150 countries, and we are always working together in teams. You mentioned that you're from Zurich, and I spent about an hour today talking to my partners in Zurich and helping them grow their business just this morning, right? So when you especially talk about global teams coming together and different nuances to what diversity and inclusion means, it becomes even more important for organizations to be cognizant and taking concrete steps in order to make their organization more inclusive and diverse, right? I think and in doing so, the fundamental bedrock, Rita, for any organization to be inclusive is their ability to make people feel belonged, right? In DE&I circles, we have this concept of insiders versus outsiders feeling that people get. Insiders, if I feel like an insider, it means that I'm a more trusted member of the team, versus if the organization makes me feel like an outsider, I'm losing out on all the trust, and therefore my performance is not good, right? So this concept of insiders, outsiders, and how we make our colleagues and people who work with the firm feel belonged is a very important and fundamental aspect of, irrespective of where you are in the geography, it remains the same. How you do it in different geographies might be different, given the cultural nuances that exist within that specific geography. So even before I start talking about different geographies, let me go back in time and bring back a big chunk of what my professional life has been, which is the Indian Army and the Indian military, right? Now, the way Indian Army, which is or any army in the world or any military in the world, which is a very true example of the highest performing functional teams in any scenario, right? What the military does is that the way they drive diversity and inclusion is that they create they create a level of uniformity within the organization that trumps everything else. It doesn't matter then what religion you are from, what caste you are from, what color you have. The regimental or the military identity is so big that everything else gets trumped, right? In Hindi, which is my native language, in the Indian Army, it is the concept of naam, namak, and nishan, which means that you do things for the name of your regiment. You do things for people who break bread with you or eat with you, you do things for the flag under which you are performing, right? So the moment people start believing in that overarching organizational goal, their ability or their propensity to sort of make having bias or making differentiation based on diversity sort of keeps going down, right? So that's the military way of doing it, by creating a uniformity across the organization that is larger than whatever everybody else is bringing to the table. Now, if you flip that, then you say, well, a lot of people on this call are probably non-military, right? They're from the corporate world or wanting to be in the corporate world or in the consulting world. And then again, the fundamental concepts do not change, right? The fundamental concepts remain the same. For corporations and consulting firms, it starts with our ability and our drive to first hire a diverse group of people within the workforce, right? So in India, for instance, the biggest gap is men to women in the workforce, right? So that basic ratio, right? So then what do organizations do to drive diversity in the firm at an intake level is, hire more women in the workforce, hire more people with disabilities in the workforce, hire more veterans in the workforce, make sure that the organization is an ally to anybody who's a part of the LGBTQ plus community, right? So that it starts from the point of intake, right? When we are hiring people, and then what the organizations do, such as EY, is that we start creating platforms for people from diverse backgrounds to be successful, keeping two things in mind. What are the business objectives? Obviously, because it's a business, therefore there are business objectives. What are the business objectives, and are they aligned with individual aspirations or not, right? And within that framework, organizations tend to have a wide variety of programs and platforms that we use in order to drive the inclusion agenda for ourselves. Like I said earlier, I probably did not answer your question on how it happens different in different geographies. But what I said right now is about 70 to 80% of how organizations drive diversity, equity, and inclusion in various geographies. And that 25 to 30% on top of that is very individual to that country or geography where their organization is situated. Does that make sense, Rita?
Right. Yeah, indeed. I like that point that you made as well, that I believe sums it up quite well. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is also about the ability to make people feel that they belong, that they are trusted. So a little bit regardless of the geography. Of course, each geography has its own aspects, but I think that answers the question definitely. We're approaching the end of our talk, so I would go to the next question. I would like to ask you to please share also the various diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives at EY, please.
Rita, can you give me 2 more hours to talk about that?
Briefly, I'll give you 2 minutes. I hope that's okay.
It works. No, Rita. There's a lot that we do, right? And I don't think so. Some of the major initiatives that EY has taken, like I said, gender parity is the first one, because in India, EY's global delivery services practice, almost 80% of our workforce is in India. So gender parity is one of the big issues that we face in India. So there are programs for hiring more women in the workforce, for making sure that we are giving the right platform and specialized platform for these women to sort of be successful in their career journeys. Like I said earlier, we have a big program going around for hiring more people with disabilities in India or in GDS. In fact, EY is one of the first organizations globally that has created a specific team that is working on neurodiversity within the workforce. It is It is a bunch of partners and senior managers working in the US, working on specific. I urge people on this call to sort of go on to EY's website and search for neurodiversity. There's a lot of good work happening in neurodiversity as well. There is a big drive for allyship as far as LGBTQ plus community is concerned. So a lot of programs in India and our other locations, at least in terms of sensitizing people to what folks from LGBT community might feel, depending on how they are treated and what is said to them. Outside of the Indian locations, there are very active sort of even hiring drives for specifically aimed to the LGBT community as well. So, like I said, I mean, I could go on and on in terms of all the good programs that are going on in EY, Rita, but I'm cognizant of time as well. So those are the few highlights that I wanted to give.
Right. Highlights. Very good and good enough, because I would like also to take this opportunity. I just saw we have a question, so we could maybe finish with this question from the audience. So Mariam Jamila, sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name quite well, but she asks, what could be the difficulties faced when trying to imbibe a more diverse and inclusive organization culture? So what obstacles, what difficulties would you say? Maybe you could top 3 or 4, and then we can wrap.
There's only one. I think you said the name was Mariam, if I got the name correct.
Yeah.
Mariam, to answer the difficulty is really only one, right? It's not 2 or 3. The difficulty is people, right? The very resource that makes inclusion a reality is the reason why inclusion is not a reality as much as it should be, right? Because people come with their own biases. Those biases are based on their experiences. Those experiences could have been good, bad, or ugly, right? So honestly, diversity is not rocket science, right? It is the most natural thing that is the bedrock of any society, right? Society works is a functional way of working because we are inclusive genetically, right? What changes it is the experiences that we have, right? So I would have a bias, and honestly, I mean, this is me being absolutely transparent. All my life, I was a military brat, and then I was in the army. I had biases against people who were non-military, and it took me some time to kind of get over those biases, right? So again, to answer your question is, what are the roadblocks? The roadblocks are people and their experiences and therefore their biases. How do you address those roadblocks? Is by making sure that you're having open dialogue. Both parties, whether it is somebody who's as passionate as we are about DE&I, or somebody who has that bias in their head that maybe, this doesn't make sense to me. As long as we are openly engaging each other and having constructive conversations and dialogues, I think those roadblocks are easily removable.
Very good. Thank you. I think this answers the question quite well, and it's a very good way to end our talk. I don't know if there's anything on your side you would like to wrap up with, Abhishek. Is there anything you would like to add?
I think, Rita, thank you. I mean, you gave me a great platform to sort of talk about something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
But what I said in the end, right, diversity and inclusion, the starting point, the journey, and obviously the end is the action, but the start, a lot of inertia that stops us from starting it and then continuing on the journey is when people block themselves from having those open conversations. So my only advice to anybody who's on this call is that be open to hearing what people's points of views are. You may not like it, but you can certainly work together to kind of get to a common platform, which is the goal of inclusiveness, is that brings everybody on the same platform. So be open to conversations without judging the other person.
Right. And also maybe start with yourself, because that's also a thing. And Absolutely. You said that yourself, right? With your own biases and everything. So it's a growing process as well that we need to start, I believe, if I may add. And we're continuing improving. Thank you. This is, like you said, we could be here for hours. We've been here for 25 minutes, believe it or not. This went very fast. It was very interesting, short, but in any way, it was very interesting, and I thank you once again, Abhishek, and everybody who was here and asked questions and participated. I will end the talk now, and I wish you all the best and see you around.
Thanks a
Take
lot,
care,
Rita. Thank you
everybody.
everyone for this opportunity.
Thank
Bye bye.
you. Thank you, Abhishek. Bye.